and welcome to Basin Academy's monthly safety training. This is your safety instructor, Jonathan Greiner, but we have a special treat for you this month. James Devers of Basin Safety is going to be your instructor this month. We're covering cold weather work and defensive driving. So thank you very much for staying tuned. As always, give us feedback in the comments at the end of this training. And with that, let's get this safety started.
Howdy and welcome to your October 2023 safety meeting. My name is James Devers and I will be your instructor. This month we're going to be going over cold weather work, winter preparedness, and defensive driving. So strap in, buckle up, get ready for a fun ride. We will go over the course objectives. In this we will go over cold weather information, like some terminology and some precautions you could take. We'll go over some cold weather injuries like hypothermia, frostbite, frost nip, and immersion foot, also known as trench foot. On the right, you can see some pictures of some stages of frostbite. Cold-related injuries and illnesses can slowly overcome a person who has been chilled by low temperatures, brisk winds, or wet clothing. This dangerous combination is known as the cold stress equation, and that is according to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA. Now this shows you the National Weather Service wind chill chart. To use this chart, find the approximate outdoor temperature along the horizontal axis, then move up the chart in the row for the approximate wind speed. This will tell you at what time you will start developing frostbite. We'll go over some winter terminology. So we'll talk about winter storm watches. This alerts the public to the possibility of heavy snow, a blizzard, heavy freezing rain, or heavy sleet. Watches are usually issued 24 to 48 hours before the beginning of the storm. You really should check before you leave the house. If there is an advisory or a watch, this will let you know how you need to plan out your day and what route to take. We also have warnings, like ice storm warnings. This is heavy ice accumulation, at least a 1/4 inch thick or more, will cause extremely dangerous and damaging situations, such as extremely icy roads, downed tree limbs, and power lines. We also have winter storm warnings, issued when a combination of heavy snow, heavy freezing rain, or heavy sleet is expected to occur. Winter storm warnings are usually issued 12 to 36 hours before the event is expected to begin. Heavy snow constitutes 6 inches or more of snow in 12 hours or less, or 8 inches or more in 24 hours or less. This is a very good thing to check the night before, or to try to make sure you plan your route out and you give yourself enough time to get to work or wherever you're going for the road conditions. We also have blizzard warnings, issued for substantial or gusty winds of 35 miles per hour or more, with falling or blowing snow reducing visibility to less than a 1/4 mile. These conditions should persist for at least 3 hours. We want to make sure that we understand we might not be able to see as we drive, we might need to pull over, and we need to be prepared for these things. Wind chill warning, issued for wind chills of 40 below or colder. In North Dakota, we do have the ND road maps. You can usually find it at the ND DOT road maps to look at the roads and see what the weather condition is. See if they're closed, see if maybe there's a lot of traffic, see if there is heavy snow, ice, rain, things like that. But it is a very good feature to make sure you plan out your travel, you understand where you're going, you understand what the road conditions are on your way there, and you can avoid or mitigate any kind of hazard by knowing the road condition. We're going to talk about winter preparedness at home first. You should try to have a flashlight and some extra batteries in case you do get stranded somewhere, a battery-powered NOAA weather radio, and portable AM/FM radio to receive emergency information. These could become your main links to the outside world, just depending on where you get stuck or where you get lost at. Extra food and water, high-energy foods such as dried fruit or candy, and food requiring no cooking or refrigeration is the best. That way, you can store it for a long time, you can have it in there, and it will last you a long time. Extra supply of daily medication and baby items, especially if you have a young child, you want to make sure that they are going to be taken care of as well. Make sure you have your medications. A lot of medications, if you do not take them, can have severe adverse effects, and we want to make sure we don't have anything like that as we're stranded. Also, a first aid kit with a manual and some supplies. That way, if anybody gets hurt or you need anything, it's right there for you. Some heating fuel would be great. Refuel before you are empty. Fuel carriers may not be able to reach you for days, both during or after a severe winter storm. And try to have an emergency heating source, such as a fireplace, wood stove, space heater, etc. Learn to use them properly to prevent a fire. Have proper ventilation. Fire extinguishers and smoke detectors. Test smoke detectors once a month to ensure they are working properly. And make sure pets have plenty of food, water, and shelter. Talk more about winter preparedness in your own vehicle or even in a work truck. Carry a winter storm survival kit. This can include blankets, sleeping bags, necessary medication, flashlight, road map, cell phone and charger, first aid kit, knife, high-calorie, non-perishable food, maybe a can opener, extra clothing to keep dry, mittens, socks, and wool cap, a large empty can and plastic cover with tissue and paper towels for sanitary purposes. You can also have a smaller can and waterproof matches to melt snow for drinking water, a sack of sand or kitty litter, a shovel, tow rope or chain, windshield scraper and or brush, jumper or booster cables, emergency flares, water container, a fluorescent colored signal marker flag, gas line de-icer. And we all want to think that if something does happen, someone will be right there. But if you do get lost, you do get stuck in something like this and nobody can get to you, well, it's up to you to take care of it, especially in your own home with your own family. You want to make sure you can take care of them. You want to make sure that they're going to be safe. So it's a very wise decision to try to get some necessary provisions in your car for winter. You want to try to prepare your vehicle as well. Check your antifreeze levels and ensure they are sufficient to avoid freezing. Check your battery and ignition systems. Keep them in good condition. If anything's wrong, get it fixed and make sure that it is corrected. Check your brakes. Check for wear, then brake fluid levels, and make sure that's okay. Check your exhaust system. You can check for leaks, crimped pipes, and replace or repair as necessary. Carbon monoxide is deadly and usually gives no warning, so we don't want that coming back into the vehicle in any way. Check your fuel and air filters. Maintain at least half a tank of gas during winter seasons if possible. Heater and defroster. That's pretty serious to make sure is working in the winter. And then lights and flashing hazard lights, ensure they are working properly. Also check your oil. Check the oil levels. Kind of go through, make sure everything is lubricated, make sure everything is working properly. Check your thermostat. Sometimes if your thermostat is off, your vehicle actually won't turn on the defroster. It'll turn on the AC because there's something wrong with the thermostat. Make sure that is working. Make sure everything is in accordance to proper specs. Make sure your windshield wipers are at a good level. Get some windshield wiper fluid for the winter, something that won't freeze, something that won't freeze in the line and not allow you to use it. And install good winter tires if possible. A lot of people keep two separate tires. They keep one for the summer and one for the winter. So when it starts snowing, they go ahead and change their tires. In the summer, they go ahead and change their tires again. That way they always have a good pair of tires for whatever season it is. Then we get into household preparation. So something like water, 1 gallon per person per day for at least 3 days. A first aid kit, make sure it's freshly stocked. We have food, non-perishables like we talked about previously. We have baby supplies like formula, bottles, pacifiers, diapers, wipes, food, and juices. We obviously want our babies to have all the necessities they need. 1 week supply of essential medications if applicable. Extra eyeglasses and hearing aids and batteries if needed. A fire extinguisher, an ABC type, that way it can put out most fires. We also want plastic knives, forks, and spoons, something you don't have to wash, something that you could readily use. Some paper plates, napkins, and paper towels. Some pet food if you have pets. And sanitation and personal hygiene items, if applicable. Then we will talk about emergency situation strategies. If you're stranded outside, you should try to find shelter, get out of the wind. Try to stay dry and cover all exposed body parts. If no shelter is available, build a lean-to, windbreak, or snow cave for protection from the wind. Build a fire for heat and to attract attention. If possible, place rocks around the fire to absorb and reflect the heat. Melt snow for drinking water, and eating snow will lower your body temperature, which could lead to hypothermia, which we want to try to avoid. If stranded in a vehicle, you will become quickly disoriented in wind-driven snow and cold. You should stay in the vehicle. Run the engine about 10 minutes each hour for heat. Open the window for a little fresh air to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. And make sure that the exhaust pipe is not blocked. Be visible to rescuers. Turn on dome lights when running the engine. Tie brightly colored cloths to your antenna or door. After the snow stops falling, raise the hood to indicate you need help. Exercise from time to time. Move arms, legs, fingers, and toes to keep blood circulating and to keep warm. Now, cold weather work. Plan work effectively. Plan and take frequent breaks. Make sure you get warmed up. Increase caloric intake. And increase hydration. Try not to drink coffee or anything like that, or energy drinks. These are diuretics. They will pull moisture out of your body, and they also do not give you enough fluid. Ensure proper PPE as well. You can have winter gloves, thermally insulated boots. You can dress in layers. Underlayers are not required to be FR, so you can dress in warm layers underneath. You can use hot hands or other kind of devices to try to warm your hands or feet. Wear a base layer. You can have hard hat liners. You should not have your hoodie under your hard hat. It's not designed that way, and it is easy for your hard hat to not protect you effectively. Ensure heaters are intrinsically safe or designed with tip-over protection. They have to be intrinsically safe because a lot of the times out on work site, we might have H2S or LEL gases or explosive gases. We want to make sure it's not going to ignite them. There is several factors increasing risk of cold injuries or illnesses. You should prevent cold-related injuries. Predisposed health conditions can make you more susceptible. You want to check your fatigue and your poor physical condition. If you have any of those, you might be more susceptible as well. If you have poor nutrition, if you're dehydrated, if you take any medication, if you've had alcohol in the last 24 to 48 hours, if you drink a lot of caffeine, if you smoke, your age, improper clothing and equipment, underactivity, overactivity, so doing too little or too much, and cold conditions like temperature, wind, wetness, and the length of exposure. That's where that wind indication chart comes into play. We'll talk a little bit about preventing cold-related injuries and illnesses. Wear appropriate clothing, avoid wetness or excessive sweating, try to stay dry as much as possible, keep active, walk around, make sure you're moving around, keeping your body temperature up. Take frequent breaks in warm, shielded areas. You don't want to take a break and stay outside. You want to go somewhere where it's warmer so you can warm up and get your body back to regular temperature. Work in pairs to keep an eye on each other, see if anybody is going to come down with any kind of cold-related injury or illness. Use the buddy system if your company has it. Consume warm, high-calorie food often, and drink plenty of warm, non-caffeinated, non-alcoholic liquids. Slips, trips, and falls constitute for a large portion of cold and weather-related illnesses. We want to make sure that we're trying to protect ourselves. So we'll talk a little bit about ice, snow, and compacted snow. We want to try to utilize traction control devices, which we'll talk about on the next slide. We want to walk slowly. Do not run across site. Do not gallop across site, and do not sprint across site. Walk somewhere. Park in areas with higher levels of traction, so near scoria or etc. Somewhere where you're not directly on ice or on a big chunk of snow where you might slip. Then we're going to talk about increasing the friction through traction control. We have chains, PVC grips, midsole cleats. You can use any one of these or a combination of these. Depends on what your company provides you or what you have. Just make sure you have something to try to protect yourself and make sure that you have plenty of traction as you walk across location. Again, slips, trips, and falls constitute for a large portion of not just winter-related injuries, but just injuries in general, almost 30%. So we want to make sure you do not fall. We want to make sure that you do not hurt yourself. We want to make sure that you are protected walking across site. Now, most sites have scoria. Scoria is very versatile, but in the winter, it can cause you to trip. So scoria is used to increase traction on location, as well as shed surface water. In winter months, scoria becomes frozen and does not move the same as in warmer weather. So we want to be careful of that and make sure as we're walking across location or walking across the site that we are protecting ourselves. Be careful when walking around or on scoria, as it can become icy on the surface or break loose from ice when weight and friction are applied. Now we're going to get into more cold emergencies in winter months, like hypothermia. Hypothermia, or low heat, results from the body's failure to maintain its normal core temperature of 98.6 degrees. Prolonged exposure to cold eventually uses up your body's stored energy, and your core body temperature drops to 95 degrees Fahrenheit or below. The result is hypothermia. Hypothermia is always going to be a medical emergency. We want to make sure we protect ourselves from this. Once your body temperature gets so low, it's just like leaving a computer or any kind of electronic device out in the winter or in the cold. It will not operate effectively, and it will not do what you want it to do. You can start having some loss of limb movement. You can start having your cognitive function and fine motor skills start to diminish. That is because your body is too cold. It is bringing heat from the rest of your body to your core to protect your major organs. We also have hypothermia. So body temperature that is too low affects the hypothalamus. This makes hypothermia particularly dangerous because a person may not realize it is happening and may deny being in any trouble. Recognition of the symptom depends on coworkers' ability to identify symptoms and to seek medical attention. With hypothermia, most cases occur in an air temperature from 30 degrees Fahrenheit to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. However, it can occur at warmer temperatures as high as 65 degrees Fahrenheit or more. If a person becomes chilled from prolonged exposure to wetness, so rain, snow, submersion in cold water or sweat, and accompanying winds. Generally, in cold, dry environments, hypothermia occurs over a period of hours. In cold water, core temperature can drop to dangerous levels in a matter of minutes. Water really does pull heat away from your body almost 400 times faster than air. So we want to be careful and make sure that we're not wet when we're working outside. Here we have a chart that will show you how fast immersion hypothermia can happen. Some stages of hypothermia. Hypothermia progresses through 3 progressive stages. They are relatively difficult to distinguish from one another. We have mild hypothermia. So approximate core body temperature is 98 degrees to 95 degrees. Moderate hypothermia, 95 to 90, and severe hypothermia below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Some signs and symptoms you might have. We'll start with physical, shivering, mild to severe, sensation of cold, then pain in extremities, pale, waxy, or cold skin, numbness in hands, unable to perform complex tasks, fumbling with items in the hand. Again, you'll start losing your cognitive function and your fine motor skills, ability to walk and talk. And then mentally, you'll be irritable and you'll have disillusionment, so you won't be able to think straight. If shivering can be stopped voluntarily, you have mild hypothermia. Then we have possible death from hypothermia. Your core body temperature is below 82 degrees Fahrenheit to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So physically, you'll have erratic, shallow breathing, may not be able to feel pulse. Your pupils will be dilated and fixed. You'll have cold, blue skin. You'll be unresponsive to any stimuli. You'll have pulmonary edema, cardiac and respiratory failure, and death possible below 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Our bodies simply will not work at that temperature. They have to be up to a higher temperature to protect our major organs and heat our blood. Mentally, your brain activity is seriously slowed. You'll be unconscious, or you could appear comatose or dead. Now, the treatment of hypothermia. Treatment depends on the severity of hypothermia. For mild hypothermia, remove wet clothing from victim and replace with dry cloth and or wrap in warm blankets. Cover the head. Move to a warm environment. Do not exercise to warm up. You want to stay still. Your joints and everything are very stiff. Do not re-warm person in a warm bath or by massaging or rubbing. This can hurt them. Drink a warm, not hot, sugary drink. Avoid drinks with caffeine like coffee, tea, or hot chocolate, or any alcohol. You want to transport the victim to an emergency medical facility for evaluation as quickly as possible. Frostbite. So with frostbite, in cold conditions, your body reduces heat loss and increases heat production in order to maintain an internal or core body temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This is to protect your major organs and your brain, make sure everything is still working. Your body is willing to sacrifice certain limbs or certain things on your body to keep it running effectively. Over time, your body will decrease blood flow to your extremities and the outer skin and shift it to the body's core to keep the internal organs warm. However, this allows exposed skin and the extremities to cool rapidly and increase the risk of cold-related injuries such as frostbite. Frostbite occurs when the deep layer of the skin and other body tissue freezes. So tissue temperature, 28 degrees Fahrenheit to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Ice crystals form, destroying tissue and causing permanent damage. In severe cases, amputation of the frostbitten areas may be required. Frostbite typically affects the extremities, your toes, your feet, your fingers, your hands, ears, nose, cheeks, and chin. These parts are the furthest away from your body. They are also sticking out from your body, so it's harder to actually keep those warm. Frostbite can be caused by exposure to below freezing temperatures. It can also occur in above freezing temperatures due to wind chill factors and wetness, or contact with extremely cold objects, especially metal in the winter, or contact with cooled or compressed gases at normal temperatures like liquid nitrogen. That's a good example for H2S2, which is very prevalent in the field. When we cool it and we compress it into a tank, it becomes a liquid. It is so cold that it will give you frostbite, just like liquid nitrogen. Frostbite can be classified into two main divisions: superficial, which is considered mild, and deep, which is considered severe. The extent of frostbite depends on the extremeness of conditions and duration of exposure. First, we will talk about superficial frostbite. This includes all layers of the skin. Initial redness in light skin, grayish in dark skin, burning, tingling, itching, or cold sensation in the affected areas, followed by numbness. Skin turns white or waxy, some resistance when pressed, feels firm or wooden, but underlying tissue is soft, or cold to the touch. You also may have blistering. Now, deep frostbite, as you can tell in the pictures, can be awfully severe. It involves skin, muscle, tendon, nerves, blood vessels, and may even include bone. White or yellowish waxy skin that turns purplish blue as it thaws. Underlying tissue is hard, no resistance when pressed, may appear blackish and dead. Blood-filled blisters and swelling may develop, and you may develop blood clots. As you can see in the pictures, this can be awfully severe, and there's a high likelihood you might have to get something amputated. Now, some typical treatments of frostbite. We want to move the person to a warm, dry area and don't leave the person alone. Remove any wet or tight clothing that may cut off blood flow on the affected area. Treat for hypothermia if victim is also experiencing hypothermic symptoms. Saving their lives is more important than preserving a finger or foot. It is always life over limb. Perform CPR if necessary. Do not rub the affected area though, because rubbing may cause damage to the skin and tissue. You can gently place the affected area in warm water, so 105 degrees Fahrenheit, water bath, and monitor the water temperature to slowly warm the tissue. Don't pour warm water directly on the affected area because it will warm the tissue too fast, causing tissue damage. Warming takes about 25 to 40 minutes. After the affected area has been warmed, it may become puffy and blistered. The affected area may have a burning feeling or numbness. When normal feeling, movement, and skin color have returned, the affected area should be dried and wrapped to keep it warm. Just note, if there is a chance the affected area may get cold again, do not warm the skin. If the skin is warmed and then becomes cold again, it will cause severe tissue damage. You always seek medical attention as soon as possible. Now we'll go on to frost nip. Frost nip is the mildest form of a freezing cold injury. Only the very outer layers of the skin freeze, usually on the cheeks, earlobes, fingers, and toes, and also nose and chin. Usually occurs at about 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Generally reversible, no tissue injury or permanent damage. Skin turns white, top layer of skin feels hard, but deep tissue still feels normal or soft, may feel tingling or numbness. Frost nip can be prevented by wearing warm clothing and footwear. We'll talk about some treatment. Gently re-warm affected area by blowing warm air onto it or placing it against a warm body part, another person's stomach or armpit. Do not use very hot objects such as hot water bottles to rewarm the area or person, and do not rub the affected part. Ice crystals in the tissue can cause damage if the skin is rubbed. This next section will talk about getting stranded on location or off location. We want to make sure we have a food supply, have a way to purify the water, and have a prepper style strategy. Make sure we have the equipment we need, make sure we have food, water, jumper cables, a warm blanket, change of clothes, some way to stay warm, things like that. Pretty much everything we've talked about within this section already. Now we'll talk about defensive driving awareness training. We'll go over safety, skills, and statistics. The objectives of this program is to provide information and skills to perform tasks involving driving safely, efficiently, and with minimal risk to yourself and others. In addition, we offer information on regulations, statistics, and corporate requirements. The main thing we do at work usually is driving to and from work. We drive a lot. That is our main way to get around. So we want to make sure we drive and protect ourselves, watch what we're doing, and watch others. So you may be asking, what is defensive driving? The National Safety Council defines defensive driving as driving to save lives, time, and money in spite of surrounding conditions and the actions of others. Just remember, you can't control what other people do, but you can control how you do things or what you do. So we want to try to drive effectively and safely to watch out for others and yourself. Defensive driving does save lives. Drivers using knowledge, skill, and experience can avoid preventable collisions. About 2/3 of all collisions are preventable. The life you save could be your own. The techniques that are used are simple and easy to learn. They stress knowledge, foresight, alertness, judgment, and skill. Defensive drivers exhibit patience, cooperation, and courtesy on the road, not a me versus them kind of attitude. Talk about some drivers who exemplify good habits. They'll have knowledge, foresight, alertness, judgment, and skill. They'll have patience, they'll cooperate when they're on the road, and they'll have very serious courtesy on the road. Again, not a me versus them attitude. This can be very dangerous when we're interacting with other drivers. Defensive driving really does save time. It's not necessarily on the road itself, but it saves time away from work, time in recovery, and potential time from grieving. It also saves money. Money lost due to injuries, vehicle, and other property damage, as well as lost work time. Attitude is one of the leading factors in car accidents. We get mad, we get irritated, frustrated, or we're in a rush. You have to make a conscious decision to be a safe driver. It does not. Now, I know many of us have experienced road rage. I know I have. But we want to try to keep that to a minimum. It can be a huge factor when we are driving. Road rage is driving under the influence of too much anger, abrupt anger, or constant anger. It can be provoked by feeling endangered by someone else's driving, so another driver cuts you off or tailgates you, as an example. Resentment at being forced to slow down. Anger at someone taking out their road rage on you as well. Some therapy for road rage: take a deep breath and just let it go. Cease to yourself. Make sure that you do not take your anger out on someone else on the road, or it can have serious consequences for you and the drivers around you. There is 5 major factors influencing driving performance: your maturity level, your attention and alertness, your knowledge base and your decision-making skills, your driving habits, and your emotion and your attitude. There's also physical aspects affecting the driver's performance, like if you are tired or you have fatigue, if you have any illness, your age, your stress level, and if you have any physical disabilities. We have some major or common driving errors here: failure to obey traffic laws, failure to maintain your vehicle, discourteous to other drivers, or you are combative, lack of driving knowledge, you have bad judgment, or you make poor decisions. Talk about who has the right of way. We like to always say they do. If you are courteous, talk about who has the right of way. We like to always say they do. If you are courteous on the road and you let someone on a 4-way stop go before you, this avoids both of you going at the same time and possibly causing an accident or anybody having any road rage. Be courteous and nice to other drivers. There are times when a driver must yield at a right-of-way. Knowledge of who has the right-of-way and showing courtesy to other drivers are the key to successful negotiation at intersections. Failure to yield to the right-of-way is one of the most frequent causes of fatal car crashes. The right-of-way is always given and is never taken. If you can wave someone through or you can let them go first, this will be your best chance at avoiding an accident. We'll talk about the legal requirements of stopping. If you stop behind other cars before an intersection, you are still required to stop at those red lines. Still stop at a stop sign or anything like that before you go. It is not we all stop at once and we all go at once. Everybody is required to stop. We have railroad crossings. So railroad crossings are also indicated by a round sign. These signs are located 50 to 500 feet from the railroad crossing, depending upon the speed limit of the highway. These signs are called crossbucks. Motorists must treat crossbucks exactly the same as yield signs. Some vehicles out there, or trucks, buses, things like that, may always stop at a railroad crossing too because they have to. Be aware of that and make sure you understand you may have to stop behind them. If the red lights are flashing at a railroad crossing and the gates are up, stop first, then proceed with caution. Look both ways, make sure you don't see a train coming. If it's around a bend, make sure you pay attention to your surroundings. If the gates are down with no train in sight, you are not allowed to go around the gates. You wait until the gates lift up. At a non-gated cross, you must stop at least 15 feet away from the rail closest to you before you continue. You should always buckle up. The law requires the driver and passenger to use seatbelts when driving on a road or public highway. The law requires children under 4 years to be restrained by an approved infant carrier, and the infant carrier must be restrained by the seatbelt. The law requires those between 4 and 17 years of age to be restrained, provided the vehicle has safety belts. No person younger than 18 years old may ride in the open bed of a vehicle or trailer unless it's the only vehicle owned. We have a chart here, which is the North Dakota percent of restrained use by injury classification from 2015 to 2019. Seatbelts protect you by keeping you in the vehicle, and they also spread the force of impact over a large area of your body, allowing your body to slow down gradually, lessening the impact on internal organs. It also prevents impact with the interior of the vehicle or anybody else in the vehicle. It also prevents collision with other occupants of the vehicle, preventing trauma to the brain and spinal cord caused by sudden change in motion. Now we'll talk about the force of an impact on your body. At 25 miles per hour, it is like the force of a 2-story fall. At 40 miles per hour, it is like the force of a 6-story fall. And at 60 miles per hour, it is about the force of a 12-story fall, which is very severe. When we talk about law enforcement emergency vehicles, if we hear a siren, a bell, klaxon, or flashing red lights, the driver should immediately pull off to the roadway to the right and stop. If traffic prevents you from stopping, slow down and leave a clear path so the emergency vehicle can safely pass on your left. Let them through and make sure you're paying attention to your surroundings. Now we'll talk about school buses. Amber warning lights. When the warning lights are active, this means the bus is prepared to load or unload children. Your action should be to reduce your speed to 25 miles per hour and prepare to stop. We always stop if the stop sign is up or they have red lights telling you to stop. This means children are in the street or unloading or loading onto the bus. Now we'll get into some inclement weather like fog, snow, rain, wind, and rain and darkness. We'll start off first with hydroplaning, a condition in which the tires of a moving vehicle ride on the surface of water, causing loss of steering and braking controls. Some causes of hydroplaning: under or overinflated tires, if you're going at excessive speed, if the depth of the water on the road is too high, or you lack tread depth on your tires. Talk about driving at night. Driving at night is more dangerous than during the day, yet most people do not receive any special training at all. Driving at night can be hard. You have glare, you can't see your surroundings, and you're kind of pigeonholed into right in front of you. Things to remember about driving at night. Your headlight illuminates only a portion of the road. The speed you travel may eliminate your reaction time. Your peripheral vision is hindered by reduced light, and you should always try to never drive when you are sleepy. Combined, the simple answer is to slow down when driving at night. Some companies have a forward first rule, but we will talk about backing rules. Do not trust your rear and side mirrors. They have large blind spots. Always look over your shoulder to make sure no one is there, or you're not going to come into contact with another vehicle or object. Before you get in the cab, do a quick walk around to ensure nothing is in your path. Do a quick inspection, look at your tires, look at everything in your path, make sure nothing's underneath your vehicle or you're not going to hit anything. Back very slowly. Be careful of small children who may wander behind your car or truck, and always park so your first move is forward. Again, a lot of companies have that rule. You back in every vehicle, so your first move is always forward where you can see. Physical force that influences driver control. At 30 miles per hour and 3,000 pounds, you need 78 feet to stop. At 30 miles per hour and 6,000 pounds, you need 156 feet to stop. When the weight doubles, stopping distance also doubles. At 60 miles per hour, you need about 303 feet to stop. When speed doubles, it's about 4 times the stopping distance as 30 miles per hour. It takes the average person 1.5 seconds to recognize that an object is on the road. At 60 miles per hour in 1.5 seconds, you will have traveled 132 feet before the brakes are applied. This can obviously be very dangerous because most of the time things are within that 132 feet. Here we have a chart for the North Dakota statistics or historical data of motor vehicle fatalities by month. This first one is from 2016 to 2020. The other one is 2020. This shows you the North Dakota holiday motor vehicle fatalities of 2020. New Year's, there was 1. Memorial Day, there was 1. Independence Day, 3. Labor Day, 0. Thanksgiving, 0. And Christmas, 0. These are fatal crashes. In 2019, fatalities occurred in 35 or 66% of North Dakota's 53 counties. In 2020, fatalities occurred in 31 or 58% of North Dakota's 53 counties. This is the North Dakota statistics on aggressive driving or alcohol. This first chart is aggressive driving. This is the North Dakota fatal motor vehicle crashes involving speeding or aggressive driving from 2016 to 2020. Texting while driving is a behavior so dangerous that drivers are 23 times more at risk of a crash or near crash event, 6 times more likely to crash than a drunk driver. Every 2 hours, 1-lane departures relate in crash occurrences. Every 6 days, 1-lane departure related fatalities occur. Now we'll talk about friction. When you are driving and you have to make a sudden stop, you are relying on friction to stop you. Friction is critically affected by the conditions of your brakes, tires, and the road surface and your speed. Then we have centrifugal force. This force is felt when your car is being pushed away from the center of a curve while driving a turn around a corner. This happens because the inertia wants to keep pushing you forward as the vehicle turns. Hydroplaning. This is when your car starts to slide on a mixture of water and oil on a concrete surface or asphalt roadway. The tires, in effect, lose contact with the pavement and therefore you lose the benefit of friction. Now we'll talk about traction versus friction. Friction is the gripping power between a tire and the roadway on which it moves. Traction is affected in one way or another by friction, stopping distance, centrifugal force, and or hydroplaning. By decreasing car traction, you are thereby decreasing the amount of control you have over the vehicle. We have inertia. This force or factor makes objects remain in place, but it is also the same factor that makes objects stay in motion. That's why centrifugal force and inertia are usually intertwined. As you take a curve, the car wants to take the curve, but inertia wants to keep moving you in a forward direction. We have kinetic energy as well. This is the energy of motion. Example. We have kinetic energy as well. This is the energy of motion. Example. The faster a car travels, the more kinetic energy it will have, and the harder it will be to control. We also have gravity. This force or factor pulls you towards the center of the earth. We're going to talk about variations of the 2-second following rule. Use the 2-second following rule only in dry weather. Double the count when the road is wet to 4 seconds. Triple the count when snow covers the road to 6 seconds. Quadruple the count when ice covers the road to 8 seconds. We want to try to avoid some common driving errors, like failure to obey the law, failure to maintain your vehicle, if you're discourteous or combative to other drivers, your lack of driving knowledge, and making bad judgments or poor decisions. When we interact with pedestrians on the road, you want to be extra careful around schools and parked cars. Be aware of the special needs of the elderly and disabled to get across the road or near the road. You must always yield to pedestrians when turning. When we're sharing the road with trucks, avoid their blind spots. Trucks are bigger, so plan and start your pass early. Give the trucks as much distance as possible. Get out of the way if trucks are coming up behind you very quickly. Give trucks the needed room to maneuver. When we interact with bicyclists on the road, cyclists are required to obey the same rules and laws that other drivers do. Many do not, so a safe driver must practice courteousness when driving your bicyclist. We also have motorcycles on the road. Motorcycles are also required to obey the same rules and laws that other drivers do. Motorcyclists present drivers with special problems. Signal and execute your maneuvers early, increase your follow distance behind them, and be very careful at intersections. Also look for them when you try to change lanes or anything like that. They are much easier to get caught in your blind spot. If you have the threat of a rear end collision, if the front way is clear and someone is coming fast from the rear, try to pull forward to increase your stopping distance. Brace yourself and release the brake an instant before you hit. If the way in front is not clear, brace yourself and hold the brake down firmly. When you are trying to recover from a slide, take your foot off the gas immediately. Don't slam on the brakes. Turn the steering wheel in the direction of the skid. For flat tires, blowouts, or loss of a tire, grip the steering wheel firmly and take your foot off the gas pedal. Do not slam on the brakes. Brake gently to reduce your speed slowly. Steer straight until you're in control, then pull off the right of way to safety and stop. If you have any mechanical failure, like a vehicle breakdown, steer yourself to exit away from the traffic. If you don't make it off the road, have everyone exit the car safely. Then turn on the emergency flashers, raise the hood when safe. If at night, turn on the car's dome light. If you see a vehicle or flashing lights on the roadside, move to lane farthest away from the lights. Reduce your speed as you approach and observe the scene for people in the street. Be prepared for the unexpected. That is the end of the safety meeting, and I want to thank you for listening and being here with us today. Have a great day, drive safe, and make sure you take care of yourself this winter.